I'm not suggesting that the bear mayonnaise is bad and wrong or not good or will make your food taste this. You just want to make sure you don't use it in large amounts because it's not cooked at all, okay? Then that brings us to the brown roux, okay? This thing is cooking right along back there. Brown roux, which is the same mixture here, only I took this pan and I put it in the oven at about 300, 325, 350 for about half an hour, 40 minutes until it got, as you can see for yourself, very brown. Now this has a very nutty flavor. This does two things when you add it to the sauce. This would normally just be added to a brown sauce, okay? Not to be confused with black roux in Louisiana cooking, which we will cover on the Louisiana, in the Louisiana class. The black roux, which is used in gumbo and so on. But this is brown roux, and brown roux does two things and is used primarily for one thing. It goes into brown stocks. You wouldn't put brown roux in a white sauce because then it'll screw up the color of your white sauce a little bit. Although who knows, you may want the flavor of the brown roux and the color added to your white sauce for whatever reason. That's up to you. But traditionally, that's not how it's handled. So again, I never finished my sentence here. Let me start over again. The two reasons why you would use the brown roux in the brown stock rather than the pale roux or the bear mayonnaise, the pale roux which you were cooking back here, is because you impart the nutty flavor of the cooked flour coupled with the color of the roux, which further enhances the brown color of the brown sauce. Okay? So what we're going to do is, since we have a brown juice right here that's partially reduced and partially thickened with cornstarch, we're going to take a little bit of the brown roux, as you see right here, and I'm going to throw it in there. So we're going to be thickening, for this demonstration lesson example, we're thickening this brown stock with all three of the thickening agents from this particular lesson: cornstarch, natural reduction, and roux. Okay? Now, some people would argue that roux is outdated, not a shape, and we don't do things like that, and we only, quote, do natural reduction. That's all fine and dandy to say, think, and do, and there's certainly a lot of value to only imposing natural reduction into your cooking, but the great cook, which differs from the good cook, has a whole repertoire of different things that they use for just the right moments at just the right time. You may be a cook that 80% of the time, which is what I'd probably recommend in general, if I had to pick a number out of the sky, let's say it was 80%. 80% of the time you may use natural reduction with your brown juices or your chicken stocks and so on as your primary thickening agent. But there's going to be those moments where you don't want that. You don't want it reduced that much, and you need a little bit more body without as much reduction for one reason or another. And the reasons are there's so many of them, there's no point in even going into it. But for this particular class, it's important for you to understand that the concept of not using roux and being, quote, so much more better, which is totally untrue, that you would reduce instead of using roux. I think using roux and how it's applied, how it's imposed, how it goes into the sauce, whether or not there's skimming that takes place and the insolubles from the milling process of the flour are removed slowly during the reducing process, as they are, and all scum and fat is removed from stocks and sauces throughout this course. So if you do good cooking practices when you're using roux, there's nothing wrong with it. The concept, again, I want to go back to just to say I don't agree with, and I agree with from time to time, is that there's some advantage with the natural reduction over the options of using roux from time to time. I think one needs to be able to do both and know when to do which one, how much, which time. And that's what this course will teach you. This course will not tell you only do natural reduction or only do roux, because this course is not about me telling you what to cook. This is about me telling you how to cook. Okay, all right. I'm done with that, and I have a lot invested in this particular topic that has to do with how the things are thickened, because I spent 30 years making sauce and worked the sauce stations in so many of my own restaurants and other ones in French restaurants. And there's a variety of thinking on this subject. And I think mine is a little bit more processed than the average person. And it's certainly not influenced by any media coverage of what's good and what's bad. I'll never forget the day I picked up the newspaper and it said, basil is out of style for the next 2 months. Well, whoever wrote that is out of style. All right, so anyway, back to the sauce. Now you'll see that this sauce, let me get a clean plate here so we can check the texture of this. We got a couple of lumps in there right now. That's okay. I'm going to let this reduce now for a few minutes, and I'm going to skim out the insolubles from that flour and anything that may come to the surface because of the cornstarch that was added. And the pale roux is cooked, by the way. There it is. So let me summarize the thickening agent. You see it's bubbling there. It's cooked, but it's not brown, and that's another flavor additive and another reason why you cook it, so it has a little flavor. So let me summarize for you quickly. Reduction, roux, cornstarch. Those are the three things that we just covered. And those three are the primary ones that are being used today. The other ones that we will be covering further down the line in the course will include using potatoes, rice, starchy vegetables, pureed into the sauce. In the Mexican class, for example, we have tortillas pureed in a stock. There's a certain kind of tortilla you should use for that and so on. And then in the Louisiana class, we have a black roux, which is just more of this brown roux cooked, really. And then we have tapioca, which is boiled in the sauce, which gives off somewhat of a cornstarch type effect, but a little bit thicker than that usually. And then you can just take bread, and it has flour in it too. Bread or tortillas was another example I just used. Put that directly into sauce and let it cook, and it will thicken the sauce and aid in the thickness of the sauce as it reduces. Throw a couple slices of bread right in. So there's other ways to thicken the sauce than the normal ways. You're going to learn all of them in this course. The three primary ones you just were shown, and I hope you got a good understanding of those. We're going to come back in about 5 minutes. I'm going to do this sauce in 2 takes. And we're going to strain this sauce. We're going to season it. We're going to look at the texture of it on the plate. That will help you understand what the thickening agent's about. It's about creating the texture of the sauce.